$11. An insult to dignity. $11. It's a sum so small it barely registers in the grand scheme of things. Yet, for the patients at KeyPoint Health Services, it's supposed to cover their basic needs for an entire week. That's what KeyPoint Health Services thinks its patients' basic needs are worth each week. $11 handed over with an air of finality, as if it were a generous gift. $11 for toiletries, for snacks, for anything that might provide a sliver of comfort or normalcy. It's insulting, it's dehumanizing. Imagine trying to stretch that meager amount to cover the essentials that make life bearable. It's a pittance that reflects a shocking disregard for the dignity of those under their care. The look of disappointment and neglect on the faces of the patients is a stark reminder of the system's failure. We're not talking about extravagant luxuries here. These are the bare necessities, the items that allow a person to maintain a semblance of dignity and self-respect. This isn't about affording a steak dinner or a new pair of shoes. It's about having enough to eat, to stay clean, and to feel human. This is about the bare minimum, the absolute essentials that everyone needs to get by. We're talking about the essential items that most of us take for granted, things like shampoo, a phone call home, or a magazine to pass the time. These small comforts can make a world of difference. $11 a week is not just insufficient. It's a clear signal that KeyPoint Health Services doesn't truly value the well-being of its patients. It's a stark, cold reminder of where their priorities lie. It's a cold, hard number that speaks volumes about their priorities. A number that shows a lack of empathy and understanding, and it needs to change. Now, the voices of those affected are growing louder, demanding fair treatment and respect. It's time for KeyPoint Health Services to listen and act. We've all heard it before, life isn't fair. It's a phrase that gets thrown around so often it almost feels like a universal truth. But let's be honest, it's often used to justify apathy, to excuse inaction, and to make us feel better about not stepping up. It's a way to shrug off responsibility, to say that the status quo is acceptable, even when it's clearly not. This sentiment is not just lazy, it's dangerous, especially when it's used in the context of basic human dignity and rights. Let's be clear, life should be fair. Fairness isn't just a lofty ideal, it's a fundamental necessity for a just society. Everyone deserves to have their basic needs met, regardless of their circumstances. Healthcare, shelter, and food are not privileges, they are rights. To suggest otherwise is to accept a system rigged against the most vulnerable among us. It's to say that some lives are worth less than others. It's time to retire the life isn't fair excuse. We need to stop using it as a crutch to avoid making necessary changes. It's a cop-out, a way to avoid doing what's right. The truth is, we have the power to make life fairer, to create a more equitable world. The truth is, we have the power to make life fairer, and that starts by demanding better for those who need it most. It starts with us. We must advocate for change, push for policies that ensure fairness, and hold those in power accountable. Only then can we create a world where life truly is fair for everyone. We're calling for a substantial increase in the weekly personal needs allowance at KeyPoint Health Services. This is not just a request, it's a demand for justice and equity in healthcare, not a minor adjustment, not a token gesture, but a real and meaningful change. $2,500 per week. This figure isn't arbitrary. It's been carefully calculated to meet the actual needs of individuals. It reflects the true cost of maintaining a basic standard of living in today's world. With rising costs of living, this amount ensures that people can afford the essentials without constant financial stress. It allows for necessities, for small comforts, for a sense of agency and autonomy that is currently denied. These are not luxuries, but fundamental aspects of a dignified life. This increase is not a luxury, it's an investment in human dignity. It acknowledges the inherent worth of every individual and their right to live comfortably. It's a recognition that everyone deserves to live with a degree of comfort and respect. No one should have to choose between basic needs and small joys. It's time for KeyPoint Health Services to put their money where their mouth is and show their patients that they truly matter. This is a call to action, a plea for compassion, and a step towards a fairer, more just healthcare system. No more excuses, no more delays. The arguments against this change are predictable and unacceptable. Budget constraints, logistical hurdles, bureaucratic red tape. These are not reasons for inaction. They are excuses masquerading as reasons. Where there's a will, there's a way. And when it comes to ensuring the well-being of those entrusted to their care, KeyPoint Health Services has a moral obligation to find that way. No more excuses, no more delays. The time for action is now. The time for change is now. The current situation is untenable. It's unjust. It's inhumane. KeyPoint Health Services has a responsibility to do better, and that starts by immediately raising the weekly personal needs allowance to $2,500. This isn't a radical notion. It's a matter of basic human decency. It's about recognizing that everyone deserves to live with dignity and respect. It's about holding those in positions of power accountable for the well-being of those under their care. The time for empty promises and half measures is over. The time for real, meaningful change is now. This is not a negotiation. We're not here to negotiate. We're not interested in compromises or incremental adjustments. This isn't a starting point for a dialogue. It's an ultimatum. $2,500 per week, starting immediately. Anything less is unacceptable. This is about sending a clear message. The well-being of patients is not negotiable. Their dignity is not up for debate. The ball is in your court. KeyPoint Health Services. The time to act is now. The choice is yours. Do what's right or continue to perpetuate a system that devalues and disrespects those who need your care the most.